At ISEC, it's our absolute pleasure to be host to the 1Q FY21 conference call of Tata Consumer Products Limited today. The company is represented by Mr. Sunil D'Souza, Managing Director and CEO, Mr. L. Krishnakumar, Executive Director and Group CFO, Mr. Ajit Krishnakumar, COO, Mr. Rakesh Soni, Global Head Strategy and M&A. At ISEC, we have an ad rating on the stock and an outperformer thought process, and we continue to stay believers. Rakesh, over to you, please.
Thanks, Manoj. And on behalf of the management of Tata Consumer Products, I welcome you all for this conference. I have with me Sunil, Mr. Krishnakumar, and Ajit. So before I get into a detailed presentation which Sunil will take us through, a quick recap of Tata Consumer. As you all know, we are the second largest branded tea player in the world. After the merger, we are now one of the top 10 F&B companies in India. Last year, we did a consolidated revenue of close to 10,000 crores, and we recently got a market cap of 40,000 crores. I will now hand over the presentation to Sunil, who will take it from here. Over to you, Sunil.
Thanks, Rakesh. In summary, I would say we've had a pretty decent quarter. Our consolidated revenue grew by 13% to 2,714. The critical thing being we had volume growth across all our businesses, and this was amidst extremely challenging environments with the lockdown and the supply chain issues. Our consolidated EBITDA grew by 37% to 486 crores. India beverage business, which now includes NourishCo, for which we've completed the acquisition, grew by 11%. On a standalone basis, our packaged tea, the brand tea business, grew by 8% value and 4% in foods, grew 8% volume, 19% value. Our international business, excluding food service, grew by 23% in value, with a volume growth of 27% in coffee and 4% in tea. Our consolidated profit before tax, before any exceptional items, is higher by 42% at 436 crores. I would credit the team with efficient management of commodity as well as inflationary costs. The one blip horizon that we see is tea prices in India continue to rise, and that may impact margins in the short term. However, on the longer term, we are confident of our delivery because of the integration of the consumer products business of the foods business which we acquired from Tata Chemicals. India beverage business is progressing very well. We already have the complete organization structure in place. Apart from that, work has already started on realizing of synergies, which is we had committed between 1.5% and 2% before the merger. We were done in place to realize the synergies. Highlight of the quarter in terms of M&A activity is the complete acquisition of the stake of PepsiCo in NourishCo in May 2020. If I move to the next slide. If you look at revenues at a glance, 1,000 crores in revenue with a 4% volume and 7% value growth. India Foods was 589 crores with an 8% volume, 19% revenue. US Coffee, 358 crores with a 27% volume. Underlying growth of 26, but currency included 37% revenue growth. International Tea, 475 crores, 4% growth, 14% revenue, underlying 9. Service, 34 crores. This was the business which was impacted by the closure of the out-of-home and on-premise. Still logged in only a negative 56 versus last year in terms of revenue. Volume negative 60. Tata Coffee, decent quarter, 229 crores. Top line, 14% volume, 12% revenue. All in all, 2,014 crores underlying value growth. Next slide. Overall, our results, 2,714 crores of revenue, 486 crores of revenue. Group net profit, 346 crores, and the net cash of close to 2,000 crores. Our growth is EBIT 82 and 82. So in terms of a flow through, we saw a perfect flow through this quarter from the top line to the bottom line. Margins did expand close to 18% EBITDA growth, 6 PBT and 30% net profit. Expand 310 basis points net profit.
Sir, this is the operator. Sorry to interrupt you. Sir, the audio is breaking from your line.
Okay. So we'll try and stabilize it. Can't help it.
Yeah, it's audible now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So EPS of 3.55, total cash EPS of 4.1, growth 89% overall EPS and 24% in cash terms. If I move to the next slide, if I the sector outlook, and this I'm sure everyone has seen already, FMCG sector growth was slowing down pre-lockdown, and this quarter overall FMCG sector is about a 20% but that said, we are seeing recovery in, I would say, middle of May and in June. Hopefully that trend continues and we should be touching normal levels very quickly. Commodity was extremely volatile, driven by tea. If you look at the center line of India tea, I think India tea was impacted by two things. One is in the early days of the quarter because of the lockdown, unable to pluck and therefore loss of crop. End of the quarter, extreme flooding, bad weather, and again issues on total crop. So lack of crop and overall price increases are looking like a challenge as we go ahead. That said, for the international business, I think we're seeing a favorable trend there for the PNC price. Kenya has had a record crop and therefore we're seeing softness on tea prices there. Coffee continues to be on a slow downward trend, which bodes well for us as of now. More Robusta than Arabica. Arabica seems to have flattened and seems to be showing a slight uptick. Commodity, I would say, is the big watch out for us. Managing it well in the next 1 or 2 quarters will be critical to delivering results. If I look at category growth across different markets that we operate in, you would have not seen these numbers in a long time in the developed markets, which are normally flattish on tea and coffee businesses. 21% growth in regular black in the US, 14 in coffee. UK, while tea was flattish overall, but fruit and herbals was a significant uptick. Canada, significant rise in all types of tea, 19 in black and 32 in specialities. India, the numbers do show a total decline of 5.4%. But that said, as I had mentioned earlier, we saw trends coming back in the month of June. For the month of June, growth was. If I move to the next slide to give you a quick update on what we have done to tackle the issues in the external environment, especially with COVID. On business continuity, all our factories and plantations are now operational. We've implemented very strict SOPs and guidelines to ensure that all our factories and offices are in the safe zone, if I may. As far as possible and where possible, we are continuing to encourage people to work from home. Starbucks is the one business which was most severely impacted by shutdown of stores. But that said, about 60% of Starbucks stores are now operational in India. Revenues are significantly down per store, but at least we started opening stores. On the supply chain piece, we moved very quickly to make sure we check materials and packaging. In addition, as we saw the demand rise across different segments that we operate in, we have set up additional packaging facilities, especially for pulses. The sales team, where there were sporadic lockdowns and couldn't operate in the market, adapted very quickly to the conditions. Telemarketing was deployed aggressively. And we continuously engage with government and industry bodies to make sure that our supply chains and customer service continues to function uninterruptedly. Digital, these are headlines digital took a big leap forward during this period. And that was not only with consumers, but also we adapted digital far faster. We've done the quarter-end audits, for example, through remote third-party columns. We've had our summer trainees and management trainees join us virtually on and even run projects remotely. We've upped the ante on our digital marketing, foods, beverages, as well as Starbucks. Tata Coffee has adopted blockchain and traceability and also using digital for monitoring crop health. Innovative ways of working. Right now, obviously, we've restricted travel unless it is essential. We have done significant tie-ups with e-commerce players and hyper-local delivery platforms across the businesses. Starbucks has adapted a contactless pay procedure. On the employee well-being, we are in constant touch with our employees to make sure that we are staying in touch with them, running weekly health and wellness initiatives, providing safety kits and training to our frontline employees. Plus, employees across the organization have had an option to top up coverage for COVID-19 mental wellness. In terms of social initiatives, we were at the forefront, apart from the Tata Group itself as a company, apart from contributing to the overall group initiatives, we have made sure that each of our businesses has contributed to the local communities, whether it is contributing to healthcare and frontline workers. We ran a campaign to help tea shops in Tamil Nadu and made sure that we coordinated in the group activity to distribute PPE kits, thermal scanners, etc. In the UK, we made sure the NHS was front and center of delivery, no interruptions for their supplies. Apart from that, we've opened our hospitals at both Munnar and Assam to cater to quarantine centers and help the local government folks. With that, I will hand over to Ajit to run you through a quick update of the integration.
Thanks, Sunil. I'm on page 14. This is a recap of the transaction. I think you're all very familiar with this, so I won't take very much time. But this is the first full quarter since the merger was complete. So just a very quick recap of why we did it. I think by now it's already a table talk to the well-established market. So I think the intention that we came into this merger with was essentially to create a single entity which had scale and financial strength. The idea was to create an entity which had multiple legs, not just a beverages leg, but to eventually have beverages, food, obviously two very strong legs in India, as well as a strong international presence with leading positions in key markets. I think the single biggest point here, however, is that the brief given to the management by the chairman and the board was to use the merger as a catalyst for upgrading systems, processes, and ways of working across the company. And that is the brief with which the team has been operating since the merger closed in February. If I would continue to the next page, on 15, the activities pre-merger, I think you would be familiar with. We announced it in the transaction in May. We received approval from SEBI in August. From somewhere around August onwards, we have been in preparation mode. I think we spent a lot of time in day one preparation, so much so that in February, when the merger actually effected, it was a very smooth transition. Since February of this year, we have essentially been in execution mode to achieve the objectives of a unified company operating at a stage of where it has been operating until now. I think we have made significant progress. We have completed many of the building blocks that we needed to. We have created an integrated organization structure and operating model. We have harmonized how both operations in India have worked so that they are all either operating or will be shortly operating in one single way. We've also planned out, and I'll talk about sales and distribution in a minute, a revamp of our sales and distribution system in India. And we have also worked on where and how we will realize cost and revenue synergies. What is in process, obviously, is the execution of some of these pieces. Some of it is already in progress, but much of it is still in process. This is primarily in the biggest chunk of this, and I'll come to the next page, is in our sales and distribution organization. But we are also in the process of implementing an end-to-end digitization across the entire, both on the sales and distribution side as well as on the supply chain side, so that we will have end-to-end visibility. This includes obviously ERP, IBP, and various other DMS and the Salesforce automation tools. We are also working on optimizing our vendor base, all of the vendor base and all of the things that you would expect to in a merger, and we are progressing at a fairly furious pace. We've also not neglected our core businesses in this integration. We have relooked at our the tea and the salt and the Sampann portfolio and looked to ways to enhance it. When we announced the merger in May, we had said that we would expect to realize roughly 2 to 3% of the then combined India branded revenues over the next 18 to 24 months. We are broadly on track to do this. Some of these synergies will start flowing in the back half of this year, but over a period of 18 to 24 months, we expect all of these synergies to flow through. If I take you briefly to page 16, I mentioned that sales and distribution was the most visible and largest change by volume in what we're integrating and upgrading. This is being led by Naveen Kar, who is the head of our India sales and distribution piece, and it's a fairly substantive piece. What is actually being attempted is combining two very strong distribution organizations into a single large-scale system, but in doing so, simplifying and rationalizing the structure. We are focusing, for example, we created dedicated teams to focus on areas which need a special focus, for example, MT, commerce, food service, etc. But we are essentially simplifying, delayering, and essentially executing a fairly straightforward, simple plan to actually achieve this, while also adding a digital backbone through the system to ensure that we get visibility from end to end and we're able to enhance our India operation. Well, obviously, these are input metrics. The expected output metrics are on the right. We hope to double our direct reach in India in the next 12 months. This will follow through to 2x to 10 numeric reach in about 3 years. Cost synergies, as I mentioned, are coming through from the rationalized structure. And the critical piece to recognize on this page is that while we are doing all of this, we don't expect there to be an enhanced cost. In fact, we believe that on a net basis, we will take about 100 bits off our cost to serve once this system is through. The last point to leave you with is that while there is the volume of this level of activity is quite considerable, we believe that by the end of this calendar year, we will have all the building blocks that we have talked about in place, which would include elements from both org structure, from S&D, from ops, things like IBP, etc., and various other pieces. All of this should be broadly in place by the end of early in the calendar year. I'll hand it back to Sunil to take us through the business performance.
Thanks, Ajit. So if I run you through the different businesses very quickly, if I go to slide number 18, India Beverages, which includes packaged tea and coffee, volume up 4, revenue up 8. April did start up with a set of hiccups, both from a customer perspective as well as supply chain, but we've seen high double-digit growth coming into May and June. Tata Tea Gold delivered double-digit growth. Apart from that, all our recent innovations of Agni and Spice Mix continued robust performance. We saw a good increase in profit driven by price realization, management of commodities, and more importantly, lower discretionary expenditure. We have seen a market share gain in the quarter. That said, I think the watch out for this business, as I mentioned right up front, is the tea prices in India continue to rise, and the timing between cost increase and price increases are the watch-outs, at least for the next one, if not 2 quarters. If I move to the next slide, slide number 19, India Foods, 8% volume, 19% revenue, high double-digit growth achieved despite operational challenges, significant growth in May and June. Salt revenues overall grew 11%. Pulses and spices under the Sampann brand, which is a focus for us, delivered robust growth of 50% plus. And again, better profits because of management of the specific levers. The good news is, despite a complicated supply chain, we continued and ensured continuity of operations despite all the challenges, and the business continues to be on a very strong footing. Slide number 20, NourishCo. We took over the business and landed straight into the lockdown. The business did see a 34% revenue decline, but still clocked a 46 crore revenue. We are actually quite happy with where we are right now with NourishCo. We've completed the entire stake. We have a concentrate supply agreement for 5 years and R&D support for 3 years from PepsiCo till we set up our own systems. Integrating the business with the Tata Consumer Products, bigger organization is underway. We have a new MD and CEO, Vikram Grover, in place, and he is running the business as we speak. Overall, as I mentioned, on-premise, out-of-home did have a challenge, and we saw that challenge reflecting in the results. That said, May and June have bounced back. We saw roughly 85% index to last year. Himalayan continues to maintain a very, very high brand equity and connect with consumers. If I move to the next slide of our Tata Coffee, we saw 6% extraction growth, 18% in plantations, and 12% overall revenue, primarily driven by Vietnam and plantations. The top line grew 12%. Extraction business grew 14%, led by Vietnam. However, we had challenges in India extractions during the lockdowns, with us initially being not able to ship out the product that we had, and also lockdowns causing issues in production. Right now, the Vietnam plant is operating at close to 90% of its production capacity and has turned a bit positive. We've had good results in our expansion of the portfolio in the plantations. And however, we do see again a challenge moving ahead, possibly with the developed markets, which are the primary customers, facing issues on-premise and out-of-home consumption, because most of coffee is consumed out-of-home, and therefore demand could be a question mark in the short term. Next slide, Starbucks. Extremely challenging quarter. We are now present in 11 cities, 187 stores. That said, just this week we have opened Lucknow, so there's now 12 cities. But revenue decline of 87% during the quarter. Despite all the challenges, we have 60% of our stores open. We are seeing a month-on-month sequential improvement. June was about 27% versus last year. July is faring better. August has started off on a good note. Takeaway and delivery obviously is the key out here, because dine-in is not allowed in most places. But the team has done significant work on rental renegotiation and kept the momentum alive by opening India's first Starbucks drive-through at Zirakpur near Chandigarh, which has got off to a, I would say, a great start. Apart from that, they have activated and kept consumers engaged through social media, as well as launching a virtual dance challenge, contributed in the COVID-19 relief for partners around the world, and kept consumers engaged with doing virtual coffee tasting. If I go to the international pieces, like 24 on the UK, we more or less maintained our market share, marginally improved it, 12% revenue growth. 7%. The discounter channel continues to be the big growth driver. And unlike other businesses here, because we participated in the government food packs, which is the DEFRA supply, we see a growth in the out-of-home channel. Again, improved profits on account of both sales as well as improved margins. This was one business where we have upped the ante on A&P. We have continued to invest behind our TVC campaign, which is Now We Are Talking. We did launch Good Earth, which is a brand we had in the US. We've launched that now in the UK. It has started off on quite a strong footing. It's right now on an exclusive basis in Sainsbury's and seeing a very good response. That said, we are seeing a bit of normalization of the pantry loading happening in the UK, and through this quarter, I think we will see demand levels coming back to normal. Slide number 25, the US, we maintained our back share, coffee growth, 26% in revenue. Growth we have seen both in branded as well as we have a private label coffee business. Tea also saw strong growth with a 25% value, 26% volume. We've upped the game on e-commerce and that is doing. However, we have on-premise out-of-home business which is suffered significantly. Hopefully, as the lockdowns start easing out, we will see that business coming back to normalcy. Canada, we've marginally again increased our market share, 32% revenue growth, largely driven by pantry loading and retailer restocking. Canada is one market where growth continues to outpace the category both across regular and specialty teas. Food service sales continue to remain soft. We did launch cold infusions at the end of Q4, but we had held back media because of the lockdowns and because cold infusions is mostly out-of-home consumption. That said, end of the quarter and coming into Q2, we have activated media and hopefully we should see good traction on the new launch out there. Slide number 27, just a snapshot of the different campaigns that we ran during the quarter. Tata Tea in India ran the Jagore campaign with Is Baar Badon Ke Liye, which is Take Care of Your Elders. We also upped the ante on our immunity building with Tata Sampann turmeric. Starbucks innovated by pushing through a launch of take-home packs of 1 liter coffee. Got off to a good start. Tetley UK ran a campaign behind cold infusions, add a little fruitiness to your water. And Tetley Canada, like I mentioned, launched cold infusions, but media kicked in very late in the quarter. Apart from that, 8 o'clock also continued to run campaigns behind their new product innovations. On the responsible business front, we continue to focus on sustainability across the value chain, the communities that we operate, and for the climate. In line with our aim to impact community members, we continue to partner with Trustee, UNICEF, provide affordable care in Munnar and Assam. We are a proud supporter of the Canadian Cancer Society through the Pink Pack sale, contributing roughly $700,000 since launch. We've distributed about 5,000 food kits in the Jagore campaign in India, and we've celebrated biodiversity on Environment Day in line with the Tata Sustainability Month. On climate, we continue to be one of the 6 companies on the CDP A list, focus on renewable energy, focus on plastics, responsible citizens out there, and decreasing our carbon footprint despite raise in volumes from 2010 to 2019. With that, I hand over to LK, who will walk you through the financials for the quarter.
Thanks, Sunil. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm on slide number 31, which is the highlights for the quarter. If you look at the standalone performance, revenue from operations higher by 10% from 1464 to 1605 crores. EBITDA up by 39% from 234 to 326 crores. On a consolidated basis, we saw a 13% growth in top line from 2392 to 2714 crores. Of the 13%, 2% was due to currency movements. Of the balance of 11%, between 6 and 7% was due to volume growth. We had strong performance in all parts of the business. India beverages grew by 11%, of which the tea business had an 8% growth. India foods higher by 19%, and we saw Tata Sampann record more than 50% growth. International business had strong performance due significantly because of the coffee business in the US, but also higher tea consumption in home. The fact that people were stocking up during the COVID period, driven by higher in-home consumption, helped us do excellent in this quarter. Tata Coffee performance was led by Vietnam, which operated at over 90% capacity. A bit of softness in the order booking for extraction because of dependence on markets like Russia and Europe, which have to get back to normal. So overall, firing on all cylinders, a little bit of a slowdown in the B2B market, but that's only 10% of our overall business. Coming to EBITDA, we have seen a 37% growth and improvement across all margins. Basic levers are the volume and the value growth, and value growth coming from reduced promotions, better product mix, and some price increases, including price increases spilling over from the previous year. Commodity costs have been soft in the UK, and also coffee prices are soft. In India, we have volatile tea costs, but we had the benefit of good inventory and a fantastic performance by the supply chain team to deliver the results that you have seen. Going forward, we are cautious in our outlook for tea prices, as Sunil mentioned. Moving on to the next slide, this is a summary financials in full form. Just want to draw your attention. We talked about the revenue growth. EBITDA and EBIT margins have gone up significantly. On a consolidated basis, they're up to 17.9% compared to 14.8%, and EBIT percentage is also high. The effective tax rate is lower than the same period in the previous year because of the reduced tax rate in India, a higher proportion of profits from international business, which has a lower tax rate, among other reasons. We have exceptional items of 63 crores, which has two elements, which is one is the profit on conversion of Nourishco from a joint venture to a subsidiary. There's a requirement for fair valuation as per the accounting standard. That's offset by a provision for integration and restructuring expenses that we have taken. So overall, PAT before associates, share of profit of associates up by about 97%. In the group net profit from JV and associates, we have higher losses in Starbucks for the reasons we talked of. We also have a slightly higher losses by the plantation companies. While prices have been higher and trending higher, there has been crop shortfalls, and I'm sure you're reading a lot about it in the press these days. So the crop shortfall contributing also to a slightly adverse performance by plantation company. Moving on to slide number 33. This gives you an overview of performance by segment. You'll see all branded business segments grew in double digits, India 11%, food 19%, beverages, international 15%, which is a very strong performance led by the coffee business in the US, where we've also seen the category growth being fairly significantly different from what we have seen in the past. Non-branded grown by 9%. So overall, we've seen a 13% revenue growth. In terms of segment results, all branded businesses are high by over 50%. A combination of volume, value, and cost, commodity, as well as discretionary and overall cost control. Look at the composition of business on the right-hand side. India beverages and foods about 65%, and international is 35%. In terms of segment results, India business is about 72% compared to revenue of 65%. International profitability is 28% against the revenue of 35%. So those are the highlights of performance. I'm going to hand it over to Sunil to talk about outlook and priorities for the year ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, LK. So I'm on slide number 35. Outlook, I'll break it into two parts. One is the macros and the external environment that we're seeing, and what impact do we think that it will have on our business. Macros, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread and continues to spread in India. Because of that, GDP forecast, it is almost like every fortnight new forecast, anywhere from 5 to 6% down, both in India as well as globally. Consumer sentiments continue to be low. Consumers not spending money, not stepping out, not shopping. That will be a challenge for some time. However, that said, it is improving slowly. We do see consumer parameters coming back to normal. Some markets faster than the others. Even in India, some geographies faster than the others. Rural will lead the revival and goes back before the urban market does. Demand for in-home and essentials continues to be robust both in India as well as globally. And we like the fact that we are in home essential space quite strongly. On the business, the thing that is, I would say, a bit unpredictable is the set of unknowns out there. The sporadic and sudden lockdowns across either countries or states and cities in India is causing demand and supply shocks. The good part is, I think, having gone through one round of lockdowns, the team is now very quick to adapt, but that said, it still causes a disruption. The second piece is, I think we saw a pantry loading impact on volume and therefore on our bottom lines in the last quarter. That is now starting to normalize globally. But in India, after a decline in April and May, and we talked about how the overall tea industry showed a -5, but coming back to a +8 in June, we are seeing growth coming back with the easing of the lockdowns. And as the lockdowns progressively ease, we do hope that we will continue to see this trend move upwards. Despite the fact that across the globe and across different states and cities in India, on-premise and out-of-home consumption is getting eased out, we still see a challenge with consumers are still very, very hesitant to step up. That business will continue to face significant headwinds globally. I think LK talked about it. I talked about it earlier. Both overall supply as well as therefore the impact on cost of tea due to COVID and then recent flood disruptions may impact demand and also margins in the short term. But that said, some different steps that we are doing in the integration process.
Sir, this is the operator. Sorry to interrupt you. Sir, the audio is breaking from your line. Please check.
Okay. So, given the fact that integration goes off well, we do remain confident that in the longer term, it will bear fruits both in terms of a stronger operating company with a lot of synergies to be realized. But the critical phase, Ajit mentioned, is we are targeting for the make sure that there are no hiccups and we execute it to the T. So that's the outlook of our side. In terms of priorities, we are focused on the priorities we've outlined in the beginning of the year, building our businesses of tea and salt, making sure pulses, spices, coffee, etc. are strong growth path, changing the digital portion of the organization, digital and new product innovation, unlocking synergies with the integration process, making sure that we create a future-ready organization. We will continue to explore new opportunities, both organic and inorganic, while making sure that we are good corporate citizens caring for the societies that we operate in. That brings me to the end of the presentation. Over to you, Rakesh.
Thank you, Sunil. I will now hand it over to Manoj, and we can start taking some questions first from the calls, and then we will take some questions from the class. So, over to you, Manoj.
So we can open up it for questions, please.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The first question is from the line of Abneesh Roy from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, congrats on a very good set of performance. My first question is on India food. So there is a gap of around 11% in the volume and value. So is it more because of the mix or is it because of the reduced promotion?
Just give me a minute.
No, I'm not sure. I think in the slide, when you say between value and volume, are you looking at 11 and 19% and trying to ask the question? Because
yeah, 8 and 19%.
In the India food. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, right, so that is, it's a combination, as we said, for the difference between volume and value overall. I think there are three main reasons, right? One is price increase, and some of the price increases are not necessarily in the first quarter, but spillover of the previous year where we may have taken up price increase in the later half. So that's one element. The second is the mix. The mix itself has been improving, and if you take, our focus has also been on improving the premium variant, and the other thing that is happening in terms of mix overall, and this is not specific to food, is that with higher online sales, I think the mix is also a little more favorable. So there's a mix element in that. And thirdly, as you rightly said, there is a reduced level of promotion. So all three are contributing, and this is not specific to foods, but across all categories.
Right. My second question is on the India tea business. You mentioned that market share has improved. So if you could tell us, is it versus the other main players? Second, again and again, you brought the raw material scenario. So normally we do have a good pricing pass through to the customer. So is it you are highlighting the margin because you want to focus on market share and take a bit of more lag pricing? Is that the reason?
So let me take that one. I think the critical thing is we did gain market share, and we did gain market share from most of our competitors, if I may put it that way. On the pricing itself, I think, Amish, the critical thing is there is the commodity cost increase, which normally is passed on to consumers, but we've got to be very mindful and careful of doing it at the right time for two reasons. One is make sure that margins are protected in terms of at least the rupees per kilo margin. Percentage is good to have. Also, the second part is to make sure we are neither significantly ahead nor significantly behind competition when doing that. So we've got to be nimble-footed on the piece, and that is why the watch out. Ultimately, the cost pressures will have to pass on to the consumers. The critical thing is when do we press the trigger? I think that is the critical point of watch out. LK, we want to add?
No, you're right, Sunil. So I think it is ultimately we are responsible competitors. So we are not going to be doing something which is just for the sake of share. So we want profitable growth, and we want long-term profitable growth. So that is the orientation.
And historically, you have taken the price increase, or the other competitor has taken in the last 3 years? Who has taken it early?
It happens both ways. Sometimes it's competition. It depends on inventory levels, what is our inventory position, what is the incoming inventory, etc. So there is no trend of who takes it first. It varies depending on the situation.
It's the last question. You have seen synergy benefit, distribution, direct reach is expanding. So beyond the current food portfolio, are you looking to add more products in the next 2 years, or you want to scale this up? And could you look beyond food, because your name is now Tata Consumer? So is there a thought process that long term you can look at beyond food also?
So Abneesh, let me take that. I think we have very clearly said in the near term, the focus is to make sure that we've got two strong businesses, both beverages and foods, which we need to put together into a common engine. and we remain extremely focused on that. And I think Ajit alluded to that we're having ambitious targets of finishing this entire integration by December. Once we have a strong engine, which includes a strong front end in terms of sales and distribution, a strong back end in terms of warehousing, logistics, transport, etc. I think after that, plugging and playing with any category is a very easy thing to do. That said, we are immensely focused on, I think you saw it in the priorities, to raise the quotient of new product development and drive innovation in the portfolio that we operate in. So you should see a ramping up of new products within the segments that we operate. We will also, I have also said, we will expand our playing field. In the short term, you could probably see us branching out into adjacencies in the categories that we operate in. And in the longer term, obviously the intention is to become a full-fledged FMCG company playing across multiple categories. But first, we've got to get our own integration proper, build the categories that we operate in, move out into adjacencies where we can leverage the capabilities that we have, and then branch out into a full FMCG piece. One step at a time, if I may.
That's very helpful. Thanks a lot. That's all from me.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pratik Pantaki from IIFL Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi team, this is Percy here, and my first question is on your margins. This quarter you've seen in the India business a gross margin tailwind despite the input costs going up, probably because you were consuming old inventory. So going ahead, as you start consuming the new price inventory for the remaining of this fiscal year, do you see any risk that either the gross margins or the EBITDA margins will sort of on a YOY basis be lower than last year for the remainder of the year?
So Percy, let me put it this way. Tea prices remain extremely volatile. Right now they are on a significant uptick. That said, there will be a significant crop expectedly in August and September. We could see movements of pricing out there. I think the critical piece is to walk the talk, make sure that we are balancing volumes as well as pricing. We should make sure that we are protecting margins, but remaining competitive at the same time to continue to drive the volume momentum. Like I said, tea prices are a worrying factor. I wouldn't put our outlook out there on the margins of now because that is something we've got to play closer to the ground.
Right, sir. Also, just wanted to understand in terms of your outlook on tea prices. I mean, it's probably peaked and you're saying that it might soften a little bit going ahead. But even after the softening, it will be quite high on a YOY basis. So to basically offset this kind of an impact, what is the amount of pricing that you need to take? You've already taken some. How much more pricing in percentage price increases will you need to take to offset the cost inflation in your opinion?
I think LK alluded to it. We will not chase volume for the sake of volume. We will chase profitable growth. As our cost of inventory keeps going up, we will make sure that we translate into the pricing. That said, we've got to make sure that the pricing that we take doesn't stall momentum completely. As I mentioned, it's a tightrope walk. You've got to constantly rebalance the cost and price numbers to make sure that while margins are healthy, you're not stalling volume. So I wouldn't hazard a guess on how much. Like I said, in the last 3 months, we've seen an uptick of about 50% on tea prices. Where it will end, I'm not sure because we keep doing these reforecasts and then again we see the prices picking up. So it's a sort of weekly forecast on which we are operating today. We will continue to operate that way till we see stability coming back. Again, I said there is significant crop expected in August and September. But that said, we had expected significant crop in July. We did not expect the floods, which spoiled the crop out there. So keeping my fingers crossed that the crop should be normal, and if so, we should see some respite from the non-stop upward trend of the tea prices.
Right.
Yeah,
My
Percy.
second question is, sorry.
Percy, there are a lot.
Hello?
We'll come back. So
No,
let us just take few more questions and then we'll come back to you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, Manoj.
So should we take the next question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arnab Mitra from Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question and congratulations on a very strong quarter. My first question was on the distribution expansion as you do this merger of the two businesses. So doubling distribution in a year's time span is obviously very aggressive, target. So do you have the outlets mapped out? Is it more rural expansion where the gaps are larger? And you mentioned that your front-end workforce essentially currently probably does both the businesses separately, and therefore as they expand, they'll do it together. So does this mean net-net there is no significant increase in cost either for you or your distributors as you double your direct reach in this period?
So let me answer the last question first. I think Ajit during his presentation said very clearly that we expect 100 basis points reduction in cost to serve at the end of this entire process. That said, right now we are in the process of putting together the food and beverage system. We had a set of layers both in the sales organization structure as well as the distribution structure per se. We are focused on removing those layers and making sure we are flattening the structure so that we become more nimble and agile. Work is in progress on putting together the distribution systems both in urban and rural. That said, the focus is first to put the urban systems together and then we will move to the rural pieces, but ultimately we'll finish the entire process by December. So there are two strong distribution systems coming together, and we do think that we've got the entire data mapped out and the plans laid out to make sure that we are doubling our reach, direct reach initially, and then that translating with the wholesale multiplier into the total numeric distribution as we go forward in a period of 3 years. We remain fairly confident. You will see step-by-step implementation of those plans happening over the next 2 to 3 months.
Thanks, that's very helpful. And just one last question on the near term. So Tata Sampann has had very good growth, and this is also a time where consumers are willing to try branded packaged products in much more easier ways. So in this shorter term, are you being able to ensure firstly supply chain in terms of product availability and distribution, because this business had relatively low grocery distribution outside modern trade. So in the short term, what are the measures you've taken, and can you leapfrog this business in this period of next 5 to 6 months?
So let me put it this way. While you did term that Tata Sampann had a good quarter, I think there is far more potential for this brand, and we remain extremely focused on growing this brand across different channels and across the country. We did have some supply chain hiccups in the early days, especially as plants were not allowed to be operational, etc., in lockdown areas. That said, over the months of May and June, I think we've seen progressive easing, and the supply chains are now robust. We are focused on expanding distribution, like you rightly mentioned. There was a limited reach. In the very, very near term, we have expanded our reach and probably our market share in these categories. But one of the critical reasons why we believe that putting an integrated system, doubling our reach, active reach, if I may, is critical, because that is when we will see the real kicker for the Tata Sampann pulses, spices, the coffee business, etc., which are normally secondary to the tea and salt. So the objective of putting a direct distribution is to reach more outlets actively with a salesman who is selling our entire range. We remain confident that once we get this, we will significantly jump shift the availability of Sampann.
Okay, thanks so much, Sunil, and all the best.
Yeah, we will take one question from the webcast now before we go back to the call. The first question here is from Varun Arora. Varun says, could you spend a couple of minutes changes that we are making in the distribution strategy as we look to increase direct reach and deal directly with stockists and dealers? What were the issues earlier in distribution and how we are addressing it as we look to work directly with the stockists and dealers? Sunil, you take this?
Yeah. So let me put it this way. Both in beverages and foods, as I said, we had layers in the distribution system, lot of which in the new age are not necessary. So we had the consignee agent system. So the company used to bill to the consignee agent, who used to then bill to the stockist, and the stockist used to bill to the retailer. In the foods business, we had a distributor whom the company used to bill to, and the distributor used to bill to the stockist, and the stockist to the retailer. We have given notice to the consignee agents and the distributors, and we will deal directly with the stockist, because we do believe a flatter system is much more effective and much more efficient, and we aim to be much more nimble and quicker out there in the market. Going forward, we will implement the Salesforce applications with the front end, connect it with DMS at the distributors, link it to our system, so we have real-time analysis of what is happening out in the market. So as a company, both from a marketing / pricing / supply chain or the procurement pieces, we are able to react much more effectively and efficiently to the trends in the market.
Thanks, Sunil. One more question from the webcast from Prashant Kutty from Sundaram Mutual Fund. The question that he has is, what was the extent of inventory gains that have come in tea business? What is the sustainable margin in the tea business? Question number 2, there has been a sharp jump in the profitability of foods business. Is it to do with any changes in arrangement or sourcing with Tata Chemicals? And what is the level of profitability now in pulses and spices? LK, will you take this?
Yeah, okay. So I think there are multiple questions there. I'll just talk about the tea business and then come to the food business, right? As far as the tea business is concerned, right, you need to remember that first of all, in a talking of tea business, the volatility is more in the Indian tea business than in the international tea business. International tea business has not had that kind of volatility as of now. In India, you should remember first what happened was initially during March, April, when there was work to be done in terms of plucking, pruning, the right people were not in place because of COVID and other factors. So the standards that were employed, there's a lot of discussion on what could have been done. So it's affected crops, further impacted by rains, which are unseasonal in some parts of Assam. And 60-70% of the tea production in India comes from Assam. So there is a problem which is in this year, which is not, a problem forever. It is something which is specific to the current year, and that has had volatility in tea prices, right? So it is still, as Sunil mentioned earlier, and some of you are familiar that a lot of the crop comes in July and August and going into September. We've had this continuing in July. There's a hope that crop will also improve in August, but notwithstanding a better crop in August, you are looking at a shortfall this year in crop, which could be significant. So you are seeing tea price increases across the board, which are fairly significant. Now, the way we will react will depend also on. We obviously don't want to pass on all the cost increases. There are other efficiencies, and beyond the point, volumes will also be impacted. But the other side of looking at it, just from a larger branded player perspective, is we are better equipped because even the smaller players will have to pay more for tea. We'll find it difficult to stock large quantities of tea. So there will be also some amount of competitive advantage that we will get. So I'm just trying to explain some of the dynamics which are there, and it's going to be an unusual year. So we have taken up prices, will look to take up prices further but also look at rationalization and volume sensitivity. There will be pockets of opportunity vis-a-vis the small players, which could emerge, right? So this is the overall dynamic. I think the margins will not be what you've seen in the first quarter, and our strategy is obviously we have built up a little more inventory, but then everybody is waiting for the big supply in August. So that's the overall dynamics of the industry. So difficult to give you a specific direction, but it's going to be a combination of volume, pricing, and efficiency. And to some extent, we will have some benefit of competitive advantage in volumes, which will play out on the results. So it's difficult to give a forecast. As far as the food business are concerned, there's no change in any pricing arrangement with Tata Chemicals. But one thing is clear is that we've had good volumes, and I think our presentation talks of record volumes in May and June. Full credit to also the team in Mithapur for managing these volumes. We've had record volume months. I think that's part of the reason for profitability improvement. Apart from, overall better performance of pulses and spices at overall better margins because of selling through some of the channels where we don't necessarily have some of the costs that we would otherwise incur. So these are a combination of reasons. We obviously did cut back a little bit on promotions in this environment.
Thanks, LK. So we'll go back to the calls. Faizan.
Thank you. We'll take the next question from the line of Gautam Trivedi from Nepean Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, results and thank you.
Mr. Trivedi, the audio is breaking from your line.
Okay. Hello, is this better?
Yeah, now it's better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, Sunil and team, great set of numbers, and frankly, we were very, very happy with the results. I had two questions. First question was, I was at a pharmacy yesterday near my home in South Mumbai when I saw for sale a product called Tata Q, ready-to-eat biryanis, noodles, and pastas. What exactly is this? Is this part of our company? Is this a separate? And I always thought that Chandra's idea was to put all of the consumer business under one roof. So which arm of Tata is this if it's not part of us?
Okay, so let me take that question. Tata Q has been launched by Tata Industries. I would leave it at that and not venture into further speculation, comment on anything beyond that. They are into packaged foods as of now. I believe it's a great product. I have tasted it. And Tata Industries normally incubates businesses and takes them to a particular scale. As I said, I would leave it at that for now.
No worries. That's fine. Second question I had was to do with the AGM of Reliance Industries, where Mr. Ambani laid out plans for what JioMart wants to do. And it appeared, again, my interpretation is it appeared that they wanted to also help the Kirana stores perfect their inventory and so forth. Again, that's my interpretation, and I wanted to understand how would that impact us in any way or our distribution network.
So let me put it this way. The distribution system out there is evolving on a consistent basis. 5 years back, online did not exist. 5 years back, online B2B did not exist. There were certain modern trade formats that did not exist. I would say, yes, Reliance has flagged off very strong ambitions in expanding their distribution to Kiranas and making sure that they play the supplier role, if I may, to the Kirana stores. As they expand their business, I think we've got to make sure that we partner with them and we drive our brand into their system and reach the Kirana store. So wait and watch, because they've started the pilot in Mumbai and now expanding nationally. We are already listed with them and they do carry us. I think the critical piece is to stay focused and make sure that our supply chains are robust to cater to them as they expand their network. But more importantly, keep a laser focus on the consumer. Make sure that your product, price, entire proposition appeals to the consumer, So the pull-through happens through the Kirana store/modern trade.
Understood. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Satish from JM Financial Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Fantastic set of numbers. I just have a bird's eye view question on how you want to take the company forward, because you have so many agro commodities that you are dealing with, which have their own cycles, while demand is continuous and constant, growing of course, but continuous. So this inventory management across geographies, logistics, warehousing, inventory, all that requires for a huge razor-sharp management. Are we, when you do your internal benchmarks, are we all there already in terms of our inventory management, procurement, cost control, etc.? And what would be your ambition to take this forward, in terms of margins, etc.?
So let me answer that in 2 or 3 pieces. Obviously, both the businesses, whether it is the food business or beverage business, has been successful in managing this commodity costs, and that is why we built this business to scale, and that is why, for example, we've delivered the last quarter, if I may. But that said, I think there is plenty of opportunity to improve from where we are, and I would say digitization end-to-end is the key to managing it. I did allude to that we are trying to build a direct reach to outlets, because if we do that, enable the salesman on the ground to link to the distributor at the back end, who links into our system, and our system links in back to the procurement team, I think real-time visibility of what's happening on the front line will make sure that we keep our entire supply chain and inventory positions lean and cost efficient. So the focus is on building that. Apart from that, we are looking at different technologies to make sure that we improve our ability to forecast commodities and deal with commodity movements faster. In tea, for example, we've already implemented a system called DigiTea, which we are now expanding and taking across different businesses across the globe, which, for example, maps out every single auction piece, does a complete detailed data analysis and feeds back to the buyer so they know what to buy, how to buy, what is the gaps. So a lot of work in process. Just to reiterate, I think we are good in the space that we operate, but we have opportunity to become better, and leveraging new technologies and digital into the future is going to be key to enable that.
Thank you, sir. Also, in terms of your final debt number, because the cash flows have been very strong this quarter, have you paid down debt significantly during the quarter, and the next half year, would we see debt numbers at a significantly lower level?
LK, would you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I think the overall net cash position is about 2,000 crores, and the gross cash is about almost 3,000 crores, right? The debt that we have primarily relates to long-term credit for the Vietnam project and some credit in 8 O'Clock, which are at very low interest rates. So there's no urgency to pay them down. So we are, we had a very strong quarter in terms of cash flow, because profits were high and we managed working capital well. And there is one other point that as we are implementing a uniform sales and distribution system, and we bring the advantages and the leverage of scale as we build a larger platform, we're also looking to review some of our credit terms and the like, which also will have a bearing on working capital. We started implementing some of these with more to follow. So long story short, it's been a good quarter in terms of cash flow. No hurry to pay down debt. Going forward, we expect to have good cash flow with one caveat, which is in the short term, if tea prices are very volatile, even though we may be holding less stock in terms of per kg, the unit price may be so high that just from a free cash flow perspective, it may have an impact. But that's going to be short term and not from a longer term perspective.
Thank you very much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Faizan will take the last two questions.
Sure. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Kothari from Alpha Accurate Advisors. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. My first question is, in the global markets also, we have witnessed a very good growth during the quarter. So is there any significant improvement in market share? That's question number one. And my second question is with reference to capital allocation. So in the entire strategy, how do you see the return on net worth and return on capital employed? Because that is very, very muted compared to many other companies in the FMCG sector. And if I can squeeze one more, because in your speech you mentioned that your aspiration is also then to become full-fledged FMCG company. This is over what time period and what do you mean by full-fledged? Because FMCG is a huge sector. So if you can give some clarity on that as well. Thank you.
Okay, so let me take the initial part and then I'll ask LK to probably chip in. Very simply put, in terms of FMCG, our ambition is to become a total FMCG company. Like I said, we are right now a food and beverage company playing in the big categories of tea and salt, if I may. We've got the nascent categories of pulses, spices, and we've got a coffee brand, etc. We will look to scale that up, slowly expand into the adjacencies which we operate, not far away from the core. And once we have built in our total system of the front end and the back end to get in other categories, we will branch out to larger categories. We are right now in the middle of doing a full analysis of different categories out there where we should have the right to win. We will not enter a category for the sake of entering it or adding to the top line. We will enter a category where we can create value for all our stakeholders, make sure that we are delivering healthy bottom lines which add to the business. LK, would you want to add to that?
Thanks, Sunil. I think the point that you started off with on return on capital employed, right? So you have to look at it that we are creating a platform for growth with a very strong sales and distribution system at the lead, supported by a variety of things, right? So on that platform, we want to build growth, and growth will come from existing categories. And if you take Sampann as an example, it is a existing product with very, very low distribution, very high potential to grow, right? So there is a transformation of the existing product range. We can grow on some of the new products in Sampann, like snacks and all that, which have even lower distribution than pulses and spices. On top of that, we will seek to enter into other products and categories. So overall, as you achieve growth on the platform, leaving aside other levers, the return on capital employed and hence return on net worth will improve. To that, you have to look at margin expansion, tighter control of costs, leveraging scale. So all this will help us in the medium term to significantly improve return ratios from where they are today. So that's the aspiration. That's the journey on which we embark.
And if I can just add to what LK said, I think the critical thing is to get the platform right. That's why we are immensely focused on getting the integration right and making sure we are building out a system from which we can scale in the future. As we get that system right, then you would start seeing the addition of categories and segments and slowly us branching out into a full FMCG company.
Great. There is one more question on the international side.
I'm sorry, we are running short of time, and there are still people who would like to ask questions. So you can reach out to me separately, and I'll address whatever questions you have. Faizan, can we take one last question from Sanjay from Canara?
Sure. The next question is from the line of Sanjay Bembalkar from Canara Robeco Asset Management. Please go ahead. Mr. Bembalkar, your line is in talk mode. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah. Is this audible?
Yes, it's audible.
Yeah, thank you. So very good financial performance. And my question is on raw material sourcing in India. So most of our raw material is farm produced, and now purchasing of farm produce is allowed outside the purview of APMC Act. So does this have any positive or negative impact on our business going ahead?
So let me take it and then I'll ask LK to input. Yes, there have been changes in the whole procurement of farm produce, if I may, from an India perspective. Right now, we are still in the process of understanding the entire pieces and, more importantly, understanding how we could take advantage of it. Once we go through the entire understanding, I think we will put in systems to make sure we are leveraging this for the full benefit of the company. LK?
Yeah, I think, yes, it's really a big opportunity because you have direct access to producer society and you can have a preferred supply relationship. That helps us to ensure reliable quality supply for one, build traceability for as another example. And overall, you can develop a variety of products based on consumer demand, based on long-term relationship with farmers. And the disintermediation will also be a win-win in terms of cost for us and return to the farmer. So all these opportunities are there. We are just about to start a few pilot projects in certain crops, which we are interested in. So that's where we are, but I think more in the medium term.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sumant Kumar from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. We mentioned in the PPT, we have gained market share in tea. So is a branded player gaining market share due to supply chain issue for unorganized player or any other factor for that?
So I think the critical thing is two things. Number one is procurement and number two is distribution. I think during the lockdown, whoever had a better procurement system and whoever had a better distribution system did make inroads. I think we made it better than most other players, if I may. There was supply of tea. There was prices going up. A lot of the smaller players, like LK mentioned, were not very sure whether the prices will continue to go up or down. So they did not refill inventories, waited on the sidelines. We continued to supply the market, and I think we came out better off in the bargain.
Okay. And the second question is regarding A&P expense. So this quarter it is lower. Can you talk about the next couple of quarters? It will be like that only.
See, we're in the space of selling branded products, and to sell branded products, there are 2 or 3 critical elements. Number 1 is sales and distribution. Number 2 is A&P, and number 3 is innovation. We remain focused on all of the 3. You would see some ups and downs in short bursts, but overall, we do believe that we have to spend to build our brand. So it is not that we are cutting out A&P for the medium term or even the shorter term. We would see an increase in A&P spends as we go forward to make sure we are strengthening our brands with the consumers.
Just one addition on A&P spend. Actually, I think we spent more in the UK and less in India. So overall, it's not that we underspent anything significantly in A&P. Just want to make that point. If you look at consolidated, it will be different from standalone.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraint, we'll take that as a last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Rakesh Soni for closing comments.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, first of all, everybody to come over and join this conference. We had almost 550 people logging for this call. And thanks to the entire team of Tata Consumer who led us to deliver this fantastic growth in Q1. As we all look forward to Q2, we will put our best foot forward to ensure that the performance of the company continues. With these words, we look forward to see you again in Q2. Thank you.